What's going on, everyone? My name is Joseph Reynolds, and today joining me is a woman with an extremely bright future within the PFL MMA, Amanda Leve, ahead of obviously return fight on the Challenger Series after a great debut with the PFL. How are you feeling for that fight?
I'm great. I'm very excited for the fight. I feel really ready. So, I'm ready to fight tomorrow.
Yeah, and as well, you take a look at your PFL debut, the way that you burst into the scene. Obviously, you had the grappling experience and people knew you from there. But in terms of getting your PFL debut and then going into this one, what's the transition sort of been like to already be in such a position still early on in your MMA career?
I think it's more just like training MMA and not just training like striking or not just training jujitsu, like making sure that the training is very like MMA focused. Like I try not to put like too much emphasis on like just striking or just jujitsu. Like I'm making sure that I'm very well rounded um, for this fight, and I'm ready to take it to the ground. I'm ready to keep it on the feet. So whatever happens, I'll be ready for stand up or grappling match.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of people already know the talent that you have in the grappling element of MMA, but in terms of the striking, it's still slightly unseen. Do you feel as though that sort of plays into your hands, that people haven't really seen what you are capable of doing on the feet as of yet?
For sure. I think, my striking has come such a long way. I'm at like a newer gym. It's called Marquez MMA, and they really pushed me on the feet. So I'm ready to throw some hands.
Yeah. And then just to say a little bit in terms of the one grappling match that comes to mind is obviously one with Gabi Garcia that happened, and the buzz around that, the grappling world went absolutely crazy over it. But in terms of looking back on that sort of match, what was that sort of like? Obviously, there were the press conference and then the match bout itself, but what was that like for yourself to go in there and get the win in that?
It was so incredible. It was definitely like the highest peak that I feel like I could reach, especially for my jujitsu career. Just overall, it just felt like all the stars aligned. Like, even when I was like getting out there that day, like I almost like knew I was gonna win. Like the feeling was very like indescribable. Um, just it just felt like all the stars aligned, and I really was so prepared for it because, like I said, I remember like seeing all the girls that I've competed against previously go against her. And I just remember thinking like, man, like if they're doing like decent with her, like I'm pretty sure like I could beat her. And when I was like very excited that I got the chance to get her like my first round, and um I was ready and I went out there and did my thing for sure.
Yeah, and when you do have that experience, obviously bringing in the sort of the grappling competitions and bringing it into MMA training and overall just progressing, what's that sort of like having that alongside the MMA as well when fighting?
It makes it me very confident because I feel like it's very hard to get good at jujitsu. Um, like I feel like that takes years to kind of like master and like to be able to like flow with it. So I feel like it's harder for like a striker to learn jujitsu than it is for a jujitsu person to learn striking. Not that striking is not hard, striking is extremely difficult, but I just feel like there's so many little intricate pieces that when it comes to jujitsu that, knowing that I already have that aspect of the game down makes me very confident.
Yeah, and as well, then taking a look at the PFL, obviously one of the stars of the promotion is Kayla Harrison, and then most recently Dakota DeCheva. But yourself is a name as well that we could be hearing for a long time in the future coming up in PFL. It's to reach that sort of level that looking at what Kayla Harrison's done in the promotion and other fighters, is that something that you're looking to replicate or sort of create your own journey in there and reach the top of the promotion?
Definitely create my own journey. I just want to be known as like a fighter that goes after and like gets after it in there. I'm ready for war for every fight. Like I am going in there. I know I prepared. Um, like I never want to step in that cage thinking that I'm prepared. So I make sure I'm always 1,000% prepared and 1,000% confident when I'm walking in there.
Yeah, and then also the format that the PFL have, it is very different to other promotions. Obviously, there's $1 million tournament and to win that as well. But in terms of being in such a promotion and the format, how exciting is it to be a part of that and knowing that it's in your future?
It's so exciting, especially because there's two bigger names now in that 145 division. Julia Budd, who was like the Bellator champion, and Aspen Ladd, who's coming over from the UFC. So I know they have a lot of experience. So I'm pretty excited. If I am able to get into that tournament, to be able to go against like two girls who, you know, are just experienced in MMA, and to see how I could do against them.
Yeah, and I know obviously you won't be overlooking this fight that you've got coming up, but in terms, obviously you mentioned there with Julia Budd and Aspen, like in terms of looking at the landscape of the division, knowing that you could fight literally anyone in there, you do get to the tournament. What's that sort of like, knowing that there's all these different names that you could fight eventually?
It's very exciting. You know, I always like to challenge myself. So knowing that there's like big names in there makes me excited, you know, to want to fight.
Yeah. And then sort of moving back into the fight a little bit, in terms of going into this one, how has the preparation been? And then finally, looking at your opponent, what do you feel as though she sort of brings to the table if you've been able to look at her own fight footage?
The preparation has been great. No complaints. And as far as her, she's a judo girl. So, you know, if worse comes to worse and she throws me, like I'm in my element, I'm on the ground, I'm in jiu-jitsu. And if, you know, if it stays on the feet, like I know I'm confident in my striking over the last couple months. So I'm ready for it to go either way.
Yeah, and then as well, obviously, taking a look at this year, we're just at the start. To get this win, it obviously the momentum really increases already. The PFL fan base are looking at your name and interested in what's up next. But in terms of by the end of this year, do you have any sort of goals for what you'd look to achieve for this year, whether it be inside of the PFL or grappling or just anywhere in general?
My goal is definitely to get into that tournament with the PFL. Definitely make a name for myself in the MMA world. I'm probably going to be taking more of a step back from the jiu-jitsu world, just because, you know, it's so different training for MMA versus training for jiu-jitsu matches. The MMA training is so much more intense, and there's so much more work you have to put in. So definitely the two things would be getting to that PFL tournament and getting my name known in the MMA world.
Yeah, and then also I've got to, I can see the dogs in the background. And
yeah, I'm sorry.
every time I see a dog, I've got to ask about them. In terms of the dogs, how are they doing at the moment? And obviously being around them at the moment.
They're great. So I just got, we just adopted a new dog 2 months ago. So we have two dogs now. So they love each other and they love playing with each other. So it's cool.
And then just one of the final few things from me, obviously moving into this fight, you mentioned that your opponent, obviously she likes the judo and it's a more favored martial art craft. But in terms of looking at it in your prediction and the best way possible for this fight to go, what does that look like for yourself?
Definitely ending in a submission for me. You know, I know that my strong point is jiu-jitsu, and I want to keep my strong point jiu-jitsu. So the best way for it to end for me is either ground and pound or a submission.
Yeah, and then finally, for the people that might not just yet know the name Amanda Leve, what is it that they can expect to see from you in this fight, and then just moving forward in general as well with the PFL?
Just know that I'm prepared to fight. I'm ready to go to war. You know, I've been training with people that are like just gritty. They like to grind it out. And if I take anyone into deep waters with the rounds, I'm going to come up on top.
There you go. Well, that is everything from myself. Obviously, PFL Challenger Series, don't miss it. And Amanda Leve is going to be a name that you're going to hear for a long time coming up within MMA or the grappling world as well. If you'd just like to take a chance for any sponsors, social media, anything like that, obviously just feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, so you guys can follow me at Amanda Leve _MMA and check out Earth Fed Muscle. They're a great protein company. All their protein is grass fed, so it's super clean, and they treat their athletes very well. So check them out.
There you go. Well, perfect. That's everything from myself. I appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.